things going on. But well, you've got a lot going on in your life as a speaker, investor, podcaster. But before we get into all of that, I want to know, 4 years ago, we were trying to figure out this pandemic, what it was going to do, how long it was going to last, all the ramifications. How did you survive it, and how did it change you?
So for me, honestly, when it first started, it was kind of laughable. Like I was talking to my husband, I'm like, "Oh, this isn't gonna last." It's all, I think everybody's like, "Oh, schools aren't gonna shut down and do all this." And we live in a rural area. And so, my husband's a farmer, so that of course affects, globally because he sells and trades corn and soybeans all over. But, our basic cost of living isn't quite as high as, some people like in the cities and stuff like that. So, and we had real estate and we had tenants and, they paid on time and they did their thing. And, for the most part, we were like, okay, this is good. The biggest thing that probably affected me personally was my coaching business. I think everybody was scared to do anything, and then they're all home and then they're bored and they're doing, this stuff. And so just fluctuating that. We had 3 kids at the time. Then we had to homeschool them on top of everything else and just kind of manage the day to day of what this looked like without really knowing. And then I was never fearful of COVID. Like I was never like, I'll probably get scrutinized for this, but I was never a mask wearer. I believed in like taking care of your body, de-stressing. Like I wasn't gonna drink the Kool-Aid of this is horrible because then I know what stress and anxiety does to your body. So I kind of refused that and was like, we're just gonna keep living our life and doing our thing. And that's just really what we did. It hit us a little bit on the real estate side because people technically didn't have to pay their rent because the government was like, "Oh, you can't do this." But we had good renters, we had good relationships with them to where we just worked with them. Like if they needed to be a little bit late, we gave them grace period, so that for us, I feel like gave us an edge because we were giving grace to people. So then they wanted to pay us. We weren't being like jerks about it and stuff. And then, so that kind of we just wrote out the times and I'm trying to think if we bought a property. Yeah, because we acquired, I think, 2 or 3 properties in that time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like the market for what we were doing, because I know that real estate market was like crazy up and down, but like for what we were doing, um, it just worked. I mean, we'd built relationships and people that wanted to sell their properties, would come to us and we just kind of kept doing what we did. I mean, I'm
Sure.
not saying that we didn't take the hits. I honestly think we're taking the hit now,
Yeah.
especially with my husband's farming business. Last year, 2023 was not a great year for farmers across the country. Like it just was not good overall. And then even this year, just seeing some just different shifts and you see the food costs. I mean, now we have a family of 7. So I just went to the grocery store and spent $500 on groceries, and that'll last us like maybe 10 days,
Yeah.
And so just I think we are seeing the ramifications now more than I saw them in the
Yeah.
beginning. And I feel
Absolutely.
like that's how the world is going right now. So I'm just really working on pivoting like my side hustles and like working out like how can I help and serve people so that we can not just survive, we want to thrive in this
Yeah.
time, like recession. I want to be one of those stories that's like, you built your business in the recession, you got your grit in the recession, because a lot of millionaires are built in like recession, depression time.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when the housing bubble blew up in '08. It took a little while. It's like we hear about it at the top, but it takes a while to trickle down. So when all
It
of
took a
this was
while.
happening, yeah, like when the pandemic was happening, everybody was like, we'll buy local, we'll get through it. It's like, of course we will, because at the end of the day, things
Yeah.
are going to shift. So
Yep.
it's the
Yeah.
way things work. So here in 2024, if I put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and one of the kids said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I really it's funny you say this because my kids ask me the same question,
Sure.
and I'm like, I help people get by right now. Currently, it's like we help people buy their first income properties and we help people make money and become amazing moms and dads. Like the way I would tell a third grader is like, I help moms and dads be home more for you and get to do fun things. Do you like that? And they're like, yeah, because if I tell people I'm a speaker, coach, author, like even third grader, even my girls like roll their eyes. They're like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you coach? You
Uh-huh.
don't do basketball, you don't do volleyball. Like, what is that? So, my older girls, they know I'm a podcaster and a speaker because they have a grasp of that.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking to little kids, I just really tell them, I'm like, I help moms and dads make more money and become awesome moms and dads. And
Yeah.
they're like, cool, like they realm that because I'm not a firefighter, I'm not a ballerina, I'm
Yeah.
not a term of that.
Yep.
So that's kind of the differentiator of because I have kids of all those ages. So
Yeah.
they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, or my daughter says I talk for a living.
Right.
Like I just talk to people
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, that you make money doing that. I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
just what.
You make money talking. So,
Yeah.
what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Oh, third grade. It shifted. Third grade, teacher hard on. I want to be a teacher until I was about junior high. Then I want to be a choreographer. And
Okay.
I remember doing a career day like description on what a choreographer was because I just loved dance. I was never in dance, could never afford dance, but I loved it. It was like in my soul. But I loved teaching from the beginning. I had my own classroom, taught to nobody, just talked to myself and just had my little classroom and I just loved to teach and do that.
Yeah.
So I really thought I'd do that for a long time.
So, who's your hero? Who's been someone that's inspired your career and what who you are today?
When I first heard Tony Robbins, I felt at home.
Yeah.
I thought I'd be a counselor before then, and it just wasn't a fit. I didn't like that industry. I didn't like um, just different things. And when I became in a network marketing company, they sent us to leadership training just because we advanced us so hard fast. And I loved leadership, like John Maxwell, I loved. And then I heard Tony Robbins, and I was like, I am home. Like I could just listen to that for hours and being tired and all of that. And I know a lot of people are, but I was never exposed to that. Remember, I was in a town of there was more cows than people in my town. There's 800
Right.
people. So I was not life coaching, that kind of stuff was not a thing. So when I saw it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like amazing. This is exactly what I was called to do." So,
Yeah.
I would say that I use the word hero really lightly because I never really get starstruck. Now, if I met Tony Robbins, I might get starstruck
Yeah.
just because the impact and the level of life he leads is so like I admire that so much that I'm like, "Okay, yes, that's really cool." But, and like what Sarah Blakely did, I'm just listening to is it Wendy Wolf, the creator of Bumble, like
Yeah.
women who've just really paved the way. Like I just think that's so amazing. I love to hear stories of that. But hero per se, that's such a stretch. I thought about that and I'm like, I have people that I admire, but no, like I don't know if hero is the right word. I take what they've done and I just think that's so inspirational.
So, speaking of paving a path, what is the motivation for you every day to get up and to do the work that you do? You're obviously impacting a lot of lives. What is that motivation for you to do that every day and to evolve as a human being?
I have always had this seed of wanting to help people. My mom had an autoimmune disease since I was 2, so she was bedridden a lot and had a lot of suffering. My sister struggled with alcoholism, and I just always wanted to fix them. Like I was just like, if I could fix you, your health. And I always had that desire, like, but I saw suffering, I saw it in marriages, I saw it in health, and I just thought, like, man, there's God made this world and there's so much good in it. Like, let's focus on that. How can we just spread the good of what's happening? And I can't explain it. It just was literally a seed that was planted in me. And so I constantly look at things as how I can find a solution. If there is a problem and my girls are like, oh, I can't do this, my mind constantly is like finding
Yep.
solutions. Like, what can I do for that? So that's like just a deep desire. But me getting up every day and doing the thing, I love my family. I have a beautiful family. I have an amazing husband that I've been with for 24 years, and I know what financial freedom can do. So, like, that drives me. I know what we can do and impact with money and make money a good thing instead of this negative thing that people don't want to talk about. And you have it and I don't. And it's like, it's not scarce.
Right.
So, like, just going after that and finding the clues, it's like a mystery to me. I love mysteries. So, it's like, that person's successful. Like, what are they doing? What am I missing? What piece of the puzzle am I missing? How can I solve that? So that it brings my husband home more because he works, like I said, he's a farmer, we're real estate investors. So we have a full plate. And if I can bring him home to even spend an extra hour with our daughters, I know how impactful that is for their life. So I constantly want our family time and our family time to be together. So I'm looking for those ways of like, where's the money? Like, what can I do? How can we financially afford this and do these things and have these experiences and stuff? So that is a deep, desire for me to really have my girls and my husband and all of us together because I didn't have that growing up. Was, my parents were together, but he worked 16, 18 hours a day because our medical bills were always so much
Yeah.
that he just worked really, really hard. Not always smart, but hard. Like he was always working and doing what he thought was best at the time. He did the best that he could do with his resources. But I know that I've been gifted with resources and wisdom that he wasn't. So if I just dismiss it, that's a disservice. Like I know there's ways that you can make money, and still be involved with your family. I know that there's ways that you can have investments and create wealth that he never was exposed to. So now it's my job. It's like, I think this is on Spider-Man, but there's a term in the Bible, but it's like with much gifts is much responsibility. So
Yeah.
if I have this wisdom, it's my responsibility to give it out, to share it, to help other people, to put it in terms they can explain and help pull out the potential for them to actually execute it.
So you dispense this advice and wisdom to others. What's
Mhm.
the best advice you've ever gotten?
Mm, I don't know if it's advice, but I think the wisdom that I got on money was probably the thing that served me the most, just because I had so many limiting beliefs with money. And that's like when stuff really started shifting for me. And I don't know if this was advice, but it's just always been like families first. Like nothing is worth anything unless you have your family there. So it's not worth ruining your relationships. And when I say family, it's not just like kids and husband. I mean, it's the relationships that you built. Like those matter the most. My relationship with God, like my relationship with my husband are first. And then everything else can be fun when those things are solid and
Yeah.
just like really grasping it, not just saying it, not just having it on a bumper sticker, not like family's the best. It's like really grasping what that means and
Mhm.
taking those intentional moments every day, that has been like so key to me. One piece of advice is that I really have grasped on recently is higher. Like you need to really just it's not the who, it's not the how, it's the who. It's like finding people to help because I have a big family and we have several businesses and we tried to do everything ourselves and it was just running us ragged. And so hiring those people in our real estate investments in, building this business and finding out those things that those key moments for me have been huge.
So of all of these things that you've done and accomplished in your life, what are you the proudest of?
My kids.
Yeah.
My relationship with my daughters. Like I have teenagers and toddlers and my daughter sent me, and for those of you who have teenagers, God bless them, but they just say the stupidest things, and and I would like to say like, it's just a teenager, but as a woman and you raise these kids, if they say stuff and it hurts your feelings, sometimes it's hard. And so the other day I helped her host a party for her cheer team and she's a freshman. So she's like, these seniors come in and do all this stuff and she's scared or whatever. And I love to host a party. So I like to make everybody feel welcome and this and that. And she sent me a text that night from her room. I'm upstairs, she's downstairs, and she's like, "Thank you so much, mom, for helping me host the cheerleaders. I couldn't ask for a better mom."
Yeah.
And just having those things or watching my daughters with the two toddlers and just how they interact with them and the love they have for that. I mean, God is definitely a force in them, but I have to give myself a little credit like, okay, man, like we are doing something right because
Yeah.
there's a lot of moments of tears and drama and, raising voices and stuff. But when I see that, or I see us all come together at the dinner table, just laughing and joking and them wanting to be with us, I'm like, no business can do that.
Yeah.
They're the ones, I'm their mom. Like everybody
Yeah.
else can have another coach, everybody else can have another investor, all those things. There's dime a dozen. I am the only mom that they're ever going to have.
Yeah.
And so just investing in that and making that the forefront. And it's hard because I'm a very driven, ambitious person. I could come up to my office and work 12 straight hours, 7 days a week and love it because I love what I do. But I have to stop myself and say, who's the collateral damage for that?
Yeah.
And it's them.
Yeah.
So that's really what I'm most proud of.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm a very driven, passionate, persistent person. And people that come around me, you're going to get something. You're going to get a piece of advice. You're going to get energized. You're going to get a story. I hope you feel better when you leave me than when you came. You're going to get a listening ear. I'm a very social person. So when you come, it's like, especially if you meet for the first time, you might get your eyebrows blown off. I'm trying to get better about just like, honing it down just a little bit. But yeah, I always try to leave somebody better than when I came.
So if we get off this call and a time machine pulls up and you can go back in time in human history and see one event with your own eyes or go into the future and see what's going on, where are you going to go?
Ooh, past events. Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I loved the 20s. I don't know that era of like dancing in a jazz club, like in my flapper dress. Like I don't, that's not really an event, but like I
Yeah.
just think that would be fun to just like have that, you know, um, those times of that. Future would be my daughter's weddings.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I hope I'm there for every single one of them, but it's like just those little moments. If I could take those 5 little moments and just like capture them up and put them in a bottle, like I think those are just special moments.
So as a podcaster, if you could get one dream guest on your show, who is it?
Tony Robbins.
I know,
Come
that's what I figured.
on.
I
I
was
mean,
gonna ask before, but I figured,
Or Sarah Blakely. I would really
okay.
like because she's a woman and she has 4 kids and she does that. So that would be a real close. Those two are very good. My celebrity crush might be Matthew McConaughey. I don't
Yeah.
know. And he kind of does entrepreneurship. So I feel like that would be a good fit. So those three would be definitely dream clients of mine.
Well, we got it out there. We put it out there. So we'll see what
Yep.
happens.
Put that out there in the atmosphere.
That's
Yes,
all you
for
can
sure.
do.
That's
So if
right.
anyone wants to listen to your podcast, delve into all of these ventures that you're
Yes.
involved with, where do they go? Where's the best place?
So my podcast is called What Went Wrong: The Untold Stories of Bouncing Back, and you can find that on any podcast platform and YouTube because we video everything. And I always think it's fun to just see the people's faces, like the people we interview and stuff. So I always think that's fun. And then Keep Legacy Wealth is our new website. Like I said, we help entrepreneurial families buy income properties and then keep the wealth you build with your businesses by teaching your kids success principles and tax strategies. And I don't do the tax strategies. I am not a tax strategist, but I have a lot of really amazing, brilliant friends who do that. And we bring them in on experts. And this is a new thing we're launching. We want to really engulf the kids to do masterminds and create businesses and maybe down the line do even like pitches to investors and what would they do if they invested in real estate and teaching young kids in on that family vision so
Yeah.
that we keep that family unit together. And so it's not just that entrepreneur that's hustle and grinding. And like I said, the kids become collateral damage. We teach them how they can bring it together and still have the dreams of impact, that's income, and then build that wealth so that it keeps for generations. Because otherwise, studies show by third generation, 90% of the wealth you build is gone.
Yeah.
It's gone from the family. And we want to keep that. So, like 10 generations, 11 generations, it's continued.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love the energy. I love the story. Thank you so much for your story today. I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.